meeting to order. We're convened as of 3:05. I would respectfully ask everyone to remain muted unless you're recognized to speak. I will now call the roll. Director Banker. Not yet. Director Busick.
Here.
Director Catlin.
Here.
Director Chandler.
Present.
Director Geisinger.
Here.
Director Guchenritter. Director Guzman.
I am present.
Director Harwick, excuse absence. Director Larson.
Here.
Director Nicholson.
Present.
Director O'Keefe.
Present.
Director Pagliari.
Present.
Director Risha. Director Whitmore.
Present.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 directors present. Excuse me, 11. Right, and 4 absent. And we do have a quorum. So I'd like to now open it up to public comment to anyone who'd like to address the board. If you wish to speak and have not already done so, please either raise your virtual hand or press *9 on your phone. During this time, the board will not offer any direct comments or responses. However, if you'd like to be contacted regarding your public comment, please email the RTD board at rtd.directors@rtd-denver.com. All right. And our first public speaker is Audrey DeBarros.
Good afternoon. My name is Audrey DeBarros. I'm the Executive Director of Commuting Solutions. We are the transportation management organization for the Northwest Metro region, and that's a proud role that we have served for over 27 years. Commuting Solutions works very closely with the Northwest Mayors and Commissioners Coalition, and together we have focused on advancing regional multimodal transportation investments that connect the communities of the City of Boulder, Boulder County, City of Longmont, Town of Superior, City of Louisville, City and County of Broomfield, City of Westminster, City of Lafayette, and the Town of Erie. We have collaborated with the RTD throughout that history, and together we have made significant accomplishments, including passage of the RTD Fast Tracks ballot issue, implementation of US 36 BRT service, the Northwest Area Mobility Study, constructing Boulder Junction at Depot Square Station, beginning the first 6 miles of Northwest Rail, constructing Boulder Junction at Depot Square Station, and constructing the end-of-line station at the City of Longmont, and most recently completing the RTD Fast Tracks Peak Service Northwest Rail study. We appreciate the support of General Manager Johnson and RTD staff for completing that study, which was really transformative in that it analyzed the possibility of beginning starter rail service, and it restarted conversations with the Burlington Northern. The Northwest MCC and Commuting Solutions also deeply appreciates the work of our state legislature and the governor's office to advance legislation for passenger rail service expansion in Colorado, including requirements for Northwest Rail completion by the RTD. And I'm here today representing both the Northwest Mayors and Commissioners Coalition and Commuting Solutions to ask you for your vote of support to join our state partners in the Joint Service Plan. Your vote is expressly important to our region. It's very symbolic. Fast Tracks is not a fully functioning system for the entire Denver region, and without completion of Northwest Rail, our region is left on whole. We are eager to advance creative solutions to bring passenger rail to our region and to Colorado. And the IGA is the first step forward to engage the Burlington Northern together and to consider the long-awaited rail service for our region through the communities of Westminster, Broomfield, Louisville, Boulder, and Longmont. I just want to say thank you for your service on the RTD Board of Directors. I know it's not easy, and I want to thank General Manager Johnson for your steadfast and bold leadership of the agency. We look forward to continuing our partnership with RTD, and we ask for your support of the IGA today. Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey. Our next speaker is Richard Bamber.
Good afternoon. I'm Richard Bamber, Greater Denver Transit. Also, your friendly railroad engineer. I don't have to dress up anymore. They now make a teddy bear. So, I joined RTD as a contractor in 2011. We'd just broken ground on the A line, and I was with the agency coming in. I think we were going to the offices, which is now the Tiercreft building, for 5 years. What is that, up to 2016? During that time, we opened the W line. We broke ground on the B, the G. Financing packages came together to build the R. That one, we had to rip the plans up for Peoria Station and redo them, which was a pleasure because it meant more transit. The N line, you know, we as a group of program manager engineers, we could be forgiven for thinking that we were going to spend the next 20 years building fast tracks, completing the plan. And then sometime around the A line opening, I forget whether it was before or after, we were all hauled into a meeting. It was like 100 of us, and somebody in finance basically said, the money's run out. It's not, you know, beyond the Eagle P3 and the N line and the R, there will be no more or very little more expansion. It was the first time the figure 2042 was quoted. You know, the idea being that RTD must pay the debts and there'd be nothing else. And, you know, that was a dream died for a lot of us in a way that day, you know. It meant that me personally, it was off to New York and other places, which was fun, but, you know, we'd have far rather have stayed in Denver to build the build out. So we stand today after a long months, a lot of effort where we're trying to get that dream in part back. The IGA is still going to need, and the arrangements, there's a lot that's going to be settled and not everything today. You know, financial plans, you'll hear good comment on the weighted voting, which I concur with. It's quite a complicated issue and I don't have the time here. But, you know, I urge people to vote yes, get us into another step and get us back to building fast tracks and back to building the transportation system this metro region deserves. Finally, on the second item of the agenda, which you probably gathered, we wouldn't let that go. You know, I'm kind of done with riding buses where I can't see out the windows. I'm kind of done being told irrelevant messages when all I want to know is where is my bus going from and is it late or where is it? You know, so I welcome the cancellation of the contract with Lamar. We need to redefine our relationship with the advertisers. We're not against the idea of advertising on the system. We just think the current relationship needs to be fundamentally changed, and a new advertising contract gives you the golden opportunity to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you, GDT. Before I call on to our next speaker, my apologies for not stating this earlier. I would like to say that you are being recorded when you give your public comments. You will have up to 3 minutes to speak, and if you could kindly state your name while speaking, that'd be perfect. All right, our next speaker, Jack Rosenthal.
Good afternoon. My name is Jack Rosenthal. I'm an RTD rider in Boulder County. I would like to second all of the support from Audrey and Richard on the IGA. I'm here to talk about the system advertising contract. I would like to share my support to terminate RTD's system advertising contract with Lamar. I know it's a difficult decision, and I know it's best for RTD. And it's going to enable us to create rider-oriented advertising policies going forward. So for example, advertisement window wraps, they cover the bus windows and they degrade the customer experience, but they also present a safety and security issue as riders may alight through the exit doors and it can be difficult to see what hazards may be outside. As another example, advertisements on digital displays routinely block important information for RTD customers, such as routes and departures times, and those should always come first. And these ads have brought in minimal revenue for RTD and yet significantly degrade the customer experience. Finding a vendor who is committed to advertising which enhances the rider experience is critical. Canceling this contract with Lamar will enable us to make the right policies going forward and help us increase the ridership of the system. I ask the board today to support this contract termination. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Our next speaker is Joe Meyer.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Chair Bouquet and members of the board. My name is Joe Meyer, and I'm from the RTD Citizens Advisory Committee, here to comment on the Joint Service IGA. The Citizens Advisory Committee, or CAC, sent the board a letter previously containing questions and comments regarding joint service on the Northwest Corridor. We support the board voting to execute the IGA for the Joint Service Executive Oversight Committee. However, we request that the board thoroughly evaluate the potential impacts to RTD's core transit services and other outstanding capital projects, and take any steps possible to protect existing service and protect the funding needed for completion of other fast tracks projects. We recognize that much of the written comment that we provided earlier is more relevant to the financial plan than to the currently considered IGA. However, we believe that the scale of RTD's estimated financial contributions to the joint service require careful consideration prior to taking this first step of entering into the IGA. In prior presentations and documentation, RTD has been assumed to financially contribute roughly half of the project costs, with a current estimate for annual contributions from RTD of approximately $40 million a year. With the currently proposed weighted vote structure, a contribution of 50% of project costs would shift RTD's voting power on the JSEOC from approximately 16% to approximately 21%. We would remind the board that this increase in vote share of 5 percentage points comes at an estimated annual contribution cost roughly equivalent to 3 times the annual operating cost of the Flatiron Flyer service in order to provide a subsidy of about $160 per boarding on this train. We would also point out that additional uncounted contributions by RTD to support joint service, namely increased bus service to Front Range passenger rail stations, may also be required or expected without necessarily contributing to a stronger vote share. The CAC recognizes the importance of RTD following through on this promise to voters, and we see the IGA as the right first step. We support this board voting to execute this IGA. We just also request that RTD work to ensure that its voice in the decision-making process and the service that it receives for its contributions are commensurate with the financial contributions that RTD is going to be asked to contribute. Even though that ask is not coming at this stage, with this being step one, I think it's really important to set the framework to know what you're getting into going forward and make sure that it does not take away from our community's existing transit service and other promised projects. Thank you, and I look forward to the following discussions and the vote.
Thank you, Joe. Before I take our online participants, would like to say, for the sake of the record, Treasurer Banker has joined us. Welcome. All right, Mr. Kroll, anyone online for public comments?
Yes, Chair Bouquet, this is Jack Kroll, Executive Manager of the Board Office. At this time, I see 4 hands raised, the first of which is from Gary Sprung.
Gary, you're recognized.
Hi, I am Gary Sprung and I live in Boulder. Like many people who live in Northwest Denver, not northwest of Denver, I am frustrated that the promised Northwest line has not been built. We have been paying taxes for fast tracks for more than 20 years. But unlike many in my region, I do not blame RTD for the shortfall. In September 2023, the Denver Post and Boulder Daily Camera published my guest editorial titled, "Who is to blame for the Northwest Rail debacle? Not RTD." In it, I argued that the economic changes after the 2004 vote were not predictable and that RTD had done nothing wrong. I noted that RTD has built 8 successful rail lines. Let's leave RTD's competency out of the debate, I wrote. They have had no major scandals. They've done okay. After that publication, the situation changed. The legislature came up with 2 new fees that provide money for the Northwest line, as well as new money for public transit agencies in general, including RTD. Then the governor, through his staff, came up with the joint service proposal, which offers a positive change to the situation. I ask you to support this joint service proposal. It is a bold and creative solution to solving your big political problem, the unfinished nature of the Northwest line. RTD's standing with the public northwest of Denver depends on initiation of some level of rail service on the Northwest line. If you were to decline to participate in this partnership, then the public would have ample reason to blame RTD. Thank you.
Thank you for comments, Gary. Mr. Kroll, our next speaker.
Yes, next we have Darcy Kitching.
Darcy, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, directors, for the opportunity to speak today. I appreciate it. My name is Darcy Kitching. I am the executive director of Boulder Chamber Transportation Connections. We are the transportation management organization for the city of Boulder and a sister organization to Commuting Solutions, for which Audrey has already spoken. We work directly with the Boulder business community, supporting employers and workers in Boulder to provide sustainable commuting options that help reduce single occupant vehicle trips and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We serve the residents and workers in the Boulder Junction neighborhood with eco-passes, among others, in the city of Boulder. I speak today to urge your support for the Joint Service Intergovernmental Agreement. We were grateful to have taken part in the Northwest Rail Peak Service Study, and we eagerly anticipate the development of Northwest Rail to bring much needed rail service to Boulder and to the Northwest region. We anticipate that this service will complement existing bus rapid transit service and help build up fast tracks as proposed and envisioned by RTD 20 years ago. We appreciate your consideration of this and are eager to support the development of Northwest Rail. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments, Darcy. Mr. Kroll, our next speaker.
Yes, next we have Mark Cathcart.
Mark, you're recognized.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Mark Cathcart. I live in Louisville, Colorado. I understand how difficult it must be to run a transportation district in a society so dominated by cars and roads. And I'd like to thank you for your service. Secondly, I appreciate how difficult it can be to work in a highly political and diverse environment. As you can hear, I'm not from here. I grew up in the UK. I've lived in New York for 7 years, in Austin, Texas for 10 years, and now Colorado for 9 years. I'd like to ask you today for your vote for the Front Range passenger rail service. I've taken high-speed rail all over the world as part of my business travel, including from Moscow to St. Petersburg in Russia 12 years ago. The service as currently proposed for Front Range passenger rail is actually far from ideal. However, it's becoming increasingly vital that we make a start on serious rail in Colorado, especially in the Denver suburbs and cities. Most importantly, though, I returned from New York to the London suburbs in 1987. I commuted daily into London for 4 years as a senior engineer and leader of a year 2000 banking project for IBM. During that time, I was blown away by the planning and evolution of the Thameslink rail line. It was initially based on diesel-based cars, big diesel-based engines, from just Bedford to St. Pancras, a journey of just some 50 miles. Over the next 2 decades, the service has transitioned to electric trains, and the peak time services have moved from 4 to often 9 cars. The service itself now goes right through London. It goes under the Thames, and it serves to the south of London all the way to the coast at Brighton. So it's over double in distance. What was really impressive about it is that the speed and frequency generated volume. That volume of passengers has continued to increase, and at the same time, the economic development around stations on the line from Bedford to London and beyond has been amazing, to the point where the speed and frequency of the line make it more than reasonable to take the train not into London, not down to the coast to the seaside, which was, part of the allure of doing it in the first place, but to take it 2 stops to a restaurant.
Mark, if you could wrap up your comments.
I am, thank you. Yes, so the important thing here is that we must make a start. And again, I'd ask you for your support and vote for the Front Range passenger rail service as currently envisaged. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Mark. Our next speaker, Mr. Kroll.
Yes, next we have Kay Palmer Marsh.
Okay, you're recognized.
Kay, if you are speaking, we cannot hear you.
Mr. Kroll, are there any other speakers?
It looks like Kay just connected to audio was the notification. Kay, can you try starting your comments now? No, I think Chair Bouquet, you might invite Kay Palmer Marsh to submit their comments in writing or return for the regular board meeting at 5:30 to provide their comments. We have no further comments or commenters in the queue at this time.
Thank you. Due to technical issues, Kay, if you could submit your comments either via writing, or of course, you're more than welcome to show up again at 5:30 for a regular scheduled board meeting to submit comments as well. So, no other comments online, Mr. Kroll?
That's correct. We have no further comments online. You all did receive a plethora of letters that I would be happy to provide a synopsis of now for the record.
Any other speakers in person? Excellent. Well, with that being said, I will now close this portion of public.
Chair Bouquet, if I may just read the letters into the record.
Oh, yes, of course.
Sorry, I got a little in front of you there. So there were a total of 10 letters submitted specifically in support of the IGA. Those were from the Northwest Mayors and County Commissioners, Commuting Solutions, Colorado Passenger Rail Association, and then individuals Kathy Partridge, Richard Bamber, Elvira Ramos, Nadine Lester, Greater Denver Transit, COPERG, DSP, SWEEP, Colorado Coalition, or Colorado Cross Disability Coalition, SDIR, and Conservation Colorado also submitted a joint letter in support of the IGA. And then Citizens Advisory Committee, as Mr. Meyer presented on earlier, submitted a letter in support of the IGA, but did also include some additional questions for the board to consider with respect to the project overall. And then there were a total of 7 letters submitted just in support of the project for Northwest Rail. And those letters actually kind of came in after the conclusion of the May meeting. So I'm going to add them to the record for this meeting, even though they were mostly in respect to the Northwest Rail project overall and not specifically for the IGA. And those are from Mara Daniels, Lori Hewitt, EJ Stone, Suzanne Kloster, Marcia Minke, and Sue Cruz.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mr. Kroll. Those letters will be added to the record. Now, with that being said, I will now close this portion of public comment. Thank you all. All right, there are 2 recommended actions on the agenda for this afternoon. The first action is for our joint service intergovernmental agreement, and that is for the board of directors to authorize the general manager and CEO or her delegate to execute the attached intergovernmental agreement for the joint service executive committee oversight. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have
Music second.
I have Director Banker as the mover, and I have Geisinger as the second. Before we jump into further conversation on this topic, I will ask Melanie Snyder, General Counsel, to kindly share the latest information on this IGA and how we got to this version before us. Ms. Snyder, can you provide us with an update on the process and your thoughts on the agreement so far?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Absolutely.
Deborah Johnson, General Manager, Chief Executive Officer. I will be presenting this item before this body this afternoon. So by way of background, as most of you are aware, Senate Bill 184 basically provided authority for parties to work collaboratively, as we have heard from commenters, in reference to working in tandem to create a vehicle, no pun intended, to ensure that we could provide mobility options along the Northwest Corridor. Over the course of the past year, I have had the opportunity, along with yourself, Mr. Chair, as well as our previous chair of the board, to work with entities representing Colorado Department of Transportation, Clean Transit Enterprise, Colorado High Performance Transportation Enterprise, Front Range Passenger Rail District, of which I do serve as an ex officio member, as well as the governor's office with that representation. And in doing so, we have worked in tandem to identify the most prudent course of action relative to memorializing our efforts with bringing or exploring, I should say, as well, the options for service along the Front Range by capitalizing on efficiencies. More so, I believe it's prudent to state that with RTD's work, as we heard from Mr. Burrows, leveraging the Northwest Rail Peak Feasibility Study that we commenced in 2023 and rounded out in the fall of 2024, really laid the foundation regarding what might be optimal, and keeping in mind the correspondence that had been shared with the representation from Front Range Passenger Rail, specifically the former general manager and the current chair of the Front Range Passenger Rail District, and that we would ensure that we leverage the information that we had garnered through our Northwest Peak feasibility study in order to move this collaborative effort forward. The reason why I point that out is that the IGA that you have before you for consideration basically will memorialize what we have been doing. When I say we, the 6 parties that I referenced over the course of the past year, in that we will be able to work as a unit. The reason why that is so important, keeping in mind that the railway that we would want to utilize for any exploration of rail service, i.e. passenger rail service, would be that of the Burlington North Santa Fe Railway. And keeping in mind that that Class 1 railroad, who is for-profit entity, wants to ensure that they're working with one entity. This IGA will enable me as the representative of RTD in serving as a principal as memorialized in the document before you this afternoon for consideration. It's important to note that this Joint Service Executive Oversight Committee that will be memorialized with the adoption of the IGA is solely to make recommendations and decisions with respect to the project, keeping in mind that there would be a governance structure. However, that does not usurp this body's authority to carry out their fiduciary responsibilities that has been granted to you all by virtue of the RTD Act. One thing that's notable, recognizing that you have had several briefings, I heard you loud and clearly, as well as General Counsel, and we have been working with the principals, and what is before you basically amplifies what the board's desire was relative to the voting component, i.e. we stand now at a supermajority +1 that would give this Joint Service Executive Oversight Committee the ability to ensure that there were 5 votes out of 6, recognizing that the other 6 principal entities that I referenced are represented by 4 entities within the state of Colorado. So with that, I will yield the floor. I do believe that this is a good first step. Want to reinforce that this is imperative as we move forward to discern what might be this agency's financial contributions, because without this iterative step, we wouldn't be able to work with BNSF to discern what the path forward is. It would give us a better understanding about financial commitments. And this is a step that will enable us to ensure that we weren't just talking about variables, but actually signing amounts to those variables. So with that, Mr. Chair, I will yield the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, GMCO Johnson. All right, directors, it is our turn. Any questions or comments in regards to this IGA? Please raise your hand, either virtually or in person. Treasurer Banker. I'm shocked you have a question or comment.
Surprise, surprise. First of all, I'm sorry I got here late. I was stuck in a traffic jam on I-25. There was a crash and traffic was going nowhere. So I was sitting there trying to figure out how I was going to make it to this meeting and make this very, very important vote. I took a few detours. I have no idea what districts I went through. But thankfully, I made it here. But I guess I mentioned this primarily because folks living in the Northwest area have very few options in making it to Denver and to other parts of the RTD district. Pretty much it's I-25. And I-25 is just getting more and more and more crowded. And once there's an accident, everything just shuts down. It would be nice to have a train. So there's a couple of things I just wanted to remind our board again, because I know you're probably all pretty much aware of the arguments that I make as to why this is a fabulous idea, is to build a train to Longmont. Over the past 20 plus years, the communities along the Northwest Rail Line have paid RTD $650 million just in fast tracks monies. And we continue every day to keep paying that tax, and will for many, many, many years. And so far, our area has not received too much from RTD for all of those dollars that we have sent to Denver. We have been waiting many years impatiently, and many of us in the various communities have been pushing. And we've also got a couple of mayors along the line that have been very upset with RTD and are waiting for this kind of service, and also additional service, I should add. And then also, just to remind everyone, the state legislature has been very good to us over the past couple of years, and they have provided 2 new revenue sources for us to tap into. And one is on rental cars, and one is on oil and gas. And when you add up all those dollars together, it comes out to approximately a new revenue stream of $174 million a year, every year. Now, is the $174 million all for RTD in this particular project? No, but a good chunk of it is. And so I do feel there's some brand new revenue on the table. And I think this is a great opportunity. We've got a lot of partners working with us to try to make this project come true. And now's a good time to go forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer. First Vice Chair O'Keefe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For those of you who don't know, Treasurer Banker has ownership rights to buildthetrain.com if anyone would like to buy it. So I wanted to specifically call out our staff for negotiating a good IGA. I think the suggestion by Secretary Nicholson on 2/3 supermajority was excellent. I think it was well received by the other parties. It's Fast Tracks has some great legacies. There was the beginning of a true regional system. The A line in particular is just a fantastic asset, but it's also has left some broken promises in its wake. Northwest Corridor is one of them. The NGL and Southwest Corridor all have sections that have not been completed. And and those voters all have the same view that you've heard the Northwest Corridor voters raise today. This IGA is a imperative first step, whether or not you're going to vote yes or no on the final package. I hope to vote yes, but there's a lot of work to be done. We are missing a single line item that's remain a mystery, and that is the price for using the BNSF corridor. I urge everybody to help us move forward so we have this number. Once we have that, we can make a decision on the best way to fulfill those promises. Again, I sincerely hope that we get to a place where the budget is feasible. We have to respect the other corridors and work with them too. But I commend our staff and the state and Front Range Passenger Rail teams for doing this. And I have great faith in the excellent negotiating team that the governor's office has in working with BNSF going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, First Vice Chair. Secretary Nicholson.
Thank you. Excuse me. So first off, just want to echo everything that First Vice Chair O'Keefe said, and specifically that the incredible work that our negotiating team did in getting us an IGA that I think those of us who have questions about this project can be comfortable with. And I was really genuinely impressed by where we ended up. I just want to call out two people that I think have deserve some recognition in this moment for the amount of work that was required to get us here. And that's Diane Barrett and Brendan Schaefer on the governor's team. It was a Herculean amount of effort to bring this to this point, and a very, very thankless job on their part. And I think that the fact that we are even considering this at this point is due to a lot of folks who went through a lot of stress to get us to where we are here. I'm exactly where Patrick is. I don't know if I'm going to be able to support this. It's going to depend a lot on what the numbers look like, whether this makes sense as a project itself. But there's no way we find out what those numbers are if we don't vote yes tonight. So yeah, we should vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. For the sake of the record, I do see that Director Geisinger, Director Guchenritter has joined us. My apologies. Director Geisinger, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, and thank you others for your comments. And I also appreciate all the work that has gone into this project from our team and the others who have worked hard on it. Even though I represent the Northwest Corridor, the western part of the Northwest Corridor, and the corridor along with Director Banker, I think of this project in terms of its benefit to RTD. And as others have said, there will be other chances to really weigh that benefit. But one of them is that this, as Ms. Johnson says, this Northwest Rail has been the albatross around our neck for a long time. And this gives us a way to move forward. And not only gives us a way to move forward, SB 161 says you have to prioritize the Northwestern Corridor and the North Corridor, and you must do it by working together with the state and these other entities. To me, this step is really just, it needs to happen. It gives us the power to go back and really know the numbers. I appreciate the comments from the CAC and others. Let's find out the real numbers, and then we can talk and people will make their own decisions. Thanks.
Thank you, Director. Director Catlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think a lot of good remarks have been made tonight. I'd like to remind this group that my district has also contributed a lot of money to Fast Tracks with zero benefit. Nothing. There has been nothing in there. There was a commitment for enhanced bus service. My district has been cannibalized for other things. There is nothing. That being said, I support a system. The voters of this district voted for Fast Tracks, and so I do support taking the next step in moving to find out what the real numbers are. And so I don't think that we should stand in the way of this IGA, but when I hear that we've put all this money into Fast Tracks and we haven't gotten our train, I bristle, because my district has contributed just as much with no benefit, in fact, a subtraction of benefits in the bus service. So I need to stand on record because, I know a lot of people have contributed money, a lot of promises have been made. There were no promises made for my district, but it has suffered as a result of some of this moving forward. I really want to find out the numbers. I absolutely do. I'm a skeptic, having done a lot of cost estimating in the past, Fast Tracks being one of them. I really want to pore over the numbers carefully, and I know Director Banker will do the same. But I think we should move forward to really be at the table, to act in good faith, and to do our part, but also remain fiscally responsible. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Director Chandler.
I echo exactly what Director Catlin just said. In fact, it feels like we have to vote for it to know what's in it. Not to be too political, but so I am a very tepid yes. This will force a negotiation to start, and I am no fan of the numbers that is presented, but I do support moving forward on this opportunity to find out what is going to be the final numbers. So I am a very tepid yes with a very big skeptic ahead.
Thank you, Director Chandler. Any other comments from directors? Yeah, Director Guzman.
Be quick. Thank you. I'm also a tepid yes on this. I do believe that it's the right direction to move in, but my frustration is that we don't know how this is going to affect services. The costs that we will get out of doing this, doing those numbers, that's going to be the really important thing. And I will give the warning now. Anybody that joins this board in the future, anybody who continues to work on the board into the next few years, please make sure you keep an eye on committing to what you have said is your most important focus point, which is to increase the ridership. Looking at the cost of numbers, I was really impressed with the work the CAC did in their letter. It was a lot of the same questions that I have had and have been looking for answers for. And without knowledge about how we're going to maintain a state of good repair on this line with a secure funding source, we have another issue to deal with. And so I will give the warning. That's the lens through which I will vote past this decision we make tonight on anything that comes to this body. Because if we do not have the funding to keep it in a good state of repair and operational, then why are we doing it? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director. Any other comments or questions from directors? Okay, prior to us moving into the vote, I will just offer some thank yous. Ms. Johnson, Ms. Snyder, your guys' teams just greatly appreciate everything that you guys have done. I've been in a couple of those principals meetings and have greatly appreciated all of your expertise with it. And I appreciate Ms. Snyder for you negotiating when it comes down to this IGA. I think this is a good first step. I like to echo everything that I've heard from my directors, and it's an exploration process. I think it is a process to understand the feasibility of this project. We want to be good partners with the state. We want to fulfill our obligations, but at the same time, we have to be responsible to the constituents and the folks who put us into these seats. So I think this is a great next step to explore what are potential possibilities. And I'll offer that as our board chair. And I will go and do this as a roll call vote. And we had Banker as the mover and Geisinger as the second. Treasurer Banker.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you.
Shocker. Director Busick.
Yes.
Director Catlin.
Yes.
Director Chandler.
Tepidly yes.
Director Geisinger.
Yes.
Director Guchenritter.
Yes.
Director Guzman.
Yes.
Director Harwick is gone. Director Larson.
Yes.
Director Nicholson.
Yes for today.
Director O'Keefe.
Yes.
Director Pagliari.
Yes.
Director Risha.
Yes.
Okay, Director Risha is present and a yes. And Director Whitmore.
I'm not sure what's just a smidge warmer than tepid, but that's me. Yes.
Excellent. I am also a yes. So this will pass 14-0 and 1 absent. Thank you all. Okay, moving on to our next item. Our second action item for today is system advertising contract termination. And this is for the board of directors to authorize the general manager and CEO or her delegate to execute all documents necessary to terminate RTD's system advertising contract with Lamar Transit. And this is amount not to exceed $2,534,655.15. Do we have a mover?
So moved.
Got Whitmore.
I was first.
Okay, got Risha as the mover and Whitmore as the second. I will now turn to Chief Communications Officer Stuart Summers. Would you please present this item to the board?
Thank you, Chair. I believe all of you are familiar with a memorandum that was sent by General Counsel. I'm just here to answer any follow-up questions before you take action.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Summers. Are there any questions or comments from directors? Yes, Secretary Nicholson.
Yes. Mr. Summers, what does assuming we take this action today, what does the handoff look like in terms of when we will stop seeing advertisements from Lamar displayed on the system, when we will, all the billboards will get taken down? Like, what does that look like? And then what do we have in mind in terms of timing for the next step? Like, what comes after that?
Mr. Summers.
Yeah, Chair, thank you. And thank you, Director, for that question. A couple things to keep in mind. We have a 5-month window of what we're calling an unwinding period. This allows us to unwind the agreement, ensure that we have everything in place as we assume control of the assets that are out there. That's mainly our digital signs, the screens. There's more than 300 of those across the system, and we'll assume control and ownership of those assets. And then during this unwinding period, that's where Lamar will continue to operate and provide the services through December 1st if you agree to take action. I'll ask Ms. Snyder if she has any other additional information related to that action.
General Counsel Snyder.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We would continue to honor any advertising arrangements that are in place up until the termination of the contract.
Secretary, does that answer your question?
Just one more quick follow-up. And so after December 1st, then in the places where we, for example, show advertising as well as our, timetables, those ads would just stop showing and we would just be showing timetables, essentially. Am I understanding that correctly?
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Jan.
Recognizing what Chief Communications Officer Summers indicated, what we will be doing during this wind down period is ascertaining our path forward. I think it would be premature to speculate the ins and outs because we will be negotiating with them relative to any authorization that you would delegate to me, and I in turn would provide a delegation to staff as appropriate. So I am more than willing to keep you all apprised, but considering that we are in this position now to determine the duration of advertisements that have been previously sold, we do have an obligation. So recognizing we're talking about the beginning of the year, and we will determine the best vehicle forward relative to any future solicitation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Secretary, you good?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Excellent. Yes, Director Guzman.
Thank you. If I understand what you said correctly, we will assume control of these areas of advertisement. That raises a concern for me, and so my question is this. Once we assume control of those areas of advertisement, I'm thinking of 3 specific bus stops within my district. Are we going to have the capacity to maintain them, keep them clean, and keep them organized? Because that was the responsibility of Lamar, who was advertising at those stops specifically, and I don't want to be caught flat-footed as an agency or as a director, not being able to maintain our assets. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Summers.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Director Guzman, for the question. I'll start and I'll ask Ms. Snyder, who has responsibility to lead the IT department. That's why we have this 5-month wind down period. It allows us to staff up appropriately, be prepared to assume control and ownership of these more than 300 digital assets. It is, as you mentioned, a very labor-intensive operation. Screens go down all the time. They're technology. They get vandalized quite often, graffiti, baseball bats, rocks. I know that you're familiar with the ones at Decatur Federal often have vandalism to them. This allows us to appropriately put a plan in place, as Ms. Johnson mentioned, so that we can be prepared to take ownership and then be able to have that asset.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments from directors? Okay, seeing none. Are there any no votes on this item? Okay, seeing none, the item will pass 14-0 and 1 absent. Thank you very much, staff, for the presentation. So that was our last item. Moving on now to other matters. Are there any other matters to discuss in this special board meeting? All right, excellent. Seeing none. So just as a reminder to members of the public and of course to our directors and all virtually assembled, our regular scheduled board meeting will be here at 5:30 p.m. tonight. Seeing no other conversation or other discussion, Motion to adjourn? All right, Guzman is the mover. We're adjourned as of 3:55 PM. We'll see everyone at 5:30 tonight.